Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and if you're a guitar player who's looking to make some more money, then listen very closely to what I'm about to tell you. If you're a guitar player, or any other kind of musician for that matter, or if you know a musician who wants to make some more money without having to tour or go on the road, or put up with any of the other BS musicians normally have to deal with, then you need to download this new special report about how to make a small fortune by licensing your music. And by licensing music, I mean getting your music inserted into movies, television shows, and commercials. The report is less than 20 pages long, and it was written by Mike Elsner, who I interviewed in episode number 167 of this show. Mike's been doing this for over 14 years, and he's had over 2,000 songs licensed at this point in time. That means he's getting paid to license almost 150 songs per year. Now, keep in mind, most successful career musicians don't get paid for 150 songs in total over a 30 or 40-year career. Yet, Mike's getting paid for this on an annual basis. And the cool thing about this business is that you can run it from your own home studio, and you'll never have to deal with ivory tower record label executives telling you what to play and how to play it, and no shady managers or unethical business people telling you what to do either. So download Mike's free ebook on the 4-step plan to licensing success right now. Just go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Let me know how you like the book. And now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. I've got a guitar player's guitarist here with us today who's also a great guy, brilliant songwriter, super cool dude, and really creative. We're here with Nick Perri. It's P-E-R-R-I. He's an American guitarist, songwriter, and producer. He's a founding member of the following bands: Silvertide, Sinai, Mount Holly, and the newly formed underground Thieves. And he's also Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smokes, literally his favorite guitar player in the world. Charlie was kind enough to introduce Nick and I, so thanks, Charlie. Nick's played guitar and wrote music for Perry Farrell, his sister Christina Perri, Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses, Jimmy Necco, and loads of others. He's a platinum-selling songwriter, and in 2016, he produced a Transformers compilation album for Hasbro Sony. In addition, Nick's placed music in movies, TV shows, and commercials, including ads for CBS, Warner Brothers Network, Theraflu, the NHL, Fox Sports, Squarespace, and he also appeared and performed in the M. Night, I always mess up this last name, Shyamalan. Could you say Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan film, Lady in the Water. And if you're a tattoo salesman, contact Nick, because that's a good prospect for you. His last band, Mount Holly's full-length album, Stride by Stride, was released in November, and it entered the top 40 on the iTunes alternative music charts, peaking at number 32, which is really difficult. So congrats, Nick. Check it out. And on January 4th of this year, Nick unveiled the name and initial lineup of his new group called the Underground Thieves. I'll tell you, no bullshit, these guys are a great band. It's like 70s rock combined with James Brown funk and soul combined with like just good shit. I don't know. Is that
I take it.
It's That's awesome. They released their first single, Graveyard Moon. Definitely check that out at on undergroundthieves.com. Graveyard Moon came out on January 26th. The next single came out. It's called Everybody Wants One in February at the 23rd. The next single's coming out at the end of March. It's called Danger Light. And on April 30th, Midas, M-I-D-A-S, is the fourth single. Nick's putting out a single on the last Friday of every month. And also for all you guitar players out there, check out Nick's YouTube channel. He's got tons of good guitar stuff on there. Some geeky stuff, some rig rundowns, effects, guitars. It's a really cool channel, and you get to see a good feel for Nick's personality. It's at youtube.com/Nick Perri Music. And again, Perri is P-E-R-R-I. Nick, thank you for your time. I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Man, thanks for having me. Pleasure's mine.
Hey, I didn't know your sister was an artist. Did you guys come from a musical family?
You know what? A lot of people have asked that, and the simple answer is no. Although, if you dig a little deeper, which I never really thought about, and as giving much weight. It is kind of funny. My dad and mom both play the accordion. But my dad is straight off the boat. He was born and raised in Italy and came over when he was 16. So he plays like a little tiny concertina and just knows these, old Italian songs. And it's not really something I thought about because growing up, it wasn't really in the house a lot. It was like, at birthdays or family functions, they'd get him out. But it wasn't a serious pursuit of music, So the easy answer is not really. We didn't really have a ton of music in the house growing up. But my aunt, my mom's sister, Teresa Karpowitz, a.k.a. the Dode.
Wait a minute. Karpowitz is not an Italian thing.
No. So my mom is very Polish.
Okay.
So my dad's 100% Italian. My mom is mostly Polish with a little bit of Italian.
Okay.
So her sister, the Dode, this is a true story.
The Dode.
On Thanksgiving, I was maybe 11, 12 years old at the most. On Thanksgiving Day, because I grew up in a pretty conservative kind of Catholic, household that we all went to Catholic school. I had to wear the shirt and tie, all boys, the whole thing, right? Very kind of conservative.
That's vibe. A typical East Coast, first generation American upbringing. Yeah.
Yeah. So she, under the table, as to not, alarm my parents, hands me 2 cassette tapes. Okay. Cause this has got to be like late 90s. CDs were out, but not fully, in circulation, I guess. So it was 2 cassette tapes. One was AC/DC Highway to Hell. And the other one was Pearl Jam 10, which was very timely for the
album.
90s.
Yeah, what a great album that was. Yeah.
Anyway, that changed the course of my whole life and my sister's because rock and roll had entered our home and we would never be the same, That's
really cool.
It's a true story.
Did you give your aunt a credit on your first record? You did. You know what, man? That's awesome. That's very cool. That is very cool. That's a cool story, man. Platinum selling songwriter. What song or songs were that? What were the circumstances or the backstory to the whole situation, maybe?
The song was called Tragedy, and it's the closing song on my sister's debut album called Love Strong. So her first album has sold, I have a plaque up here. It's ridiculous. She sold like 20 million songs or albums.
Holy crap. You got the platinum record right up there.
Yeah.
That's very cool, man.
So it was an honor for me to
That's awesome.
have a song to reach that many people. But, she's my sister, so it's family, and it was very natural. Actually, we wrote the song together before she skyrocketed, and she decided to put it on her first album. So
that's really awesome, man. That's a nice story.
She's great. She's incredibly talented. She's got an incredible voice, and it's just cool. It's cool to watch her do her thing and have someone who's in my immediate family, that really understands what this whole business is about. Yeah,
that must be really good because it is a business, and it's probably nice to have a safe place to go with shit that's happening in your particular business world at any given time. Yeah, I could see that.
Totally. And even just for example, over the years and as recent as just, a couple of days ago, I'll send her stuff. And whereas, my family has been through this with me I've been doing this now for 17 years professionally, started super young. And, so they know the drill, so they can be honest with me. But in a lot of, situations, maybe a family member would be more, flattery instead of being real. Yeah. She can be real and be like, hey, look, this isn't your best, or this is great, and give me perspective from, she'll tell me like it is, which is invaluable to me to have someone close to me that, we won't offend each other, but we can kind of tell it like it is.
Yeah, I think that's so important to have someone like that. In anything you do, it's you you can't grow otherwise without that, because sometimes people won't tell you the truth and you're under the mistaken impression that everything's good.
Yeah.
When, I agree with you.
Well, my wife, I have to say, she's really tough. I've definitely surrounded myself
tough women.
Yes, there's very few yes people in my world who will just say yes just because they give it to me straight.
Yeah.
And my wife's a very tough critic. So I'm always working for it, man.
Yeah. No, I hear you. My wife's the same way. I value that about her probably more than anything else. I think, marriage is like, or relationships in general, when everything's easy, it's no test. It's when the shit hits the fan and you need, and at least for me, like if I'm down, which doesn't happen a lot, but it happens, and in life, and I'm a business person. I've been running business for 20 years, and you definitely have ups and downs. And, for me, I need someone to like sort of kick my ass when that happens, not to say, oh baby, everything's going to be okay. You need that too, but I need someone to say, hey, go do something and you'll feel better. You know what? That's a great fucking idea. And so I understand that, man. It's very important. It
is important. Well said.
Mount Holly. I know that band is sort of like over, but did you work with these guys like before Mount Holly? Because and it's the same thing with the Thieves. Just to watch you guys, you'd think you were together. Somehow you're able to get these very congruent, very well-oiled performances out of your band members, man. It's very tight.
Well, thanks. I'm a workaholic, to say the least. And when we came together with Mount Holly, even when there was no show to prepare for, I insisted upon rehearsing, 2 to 3 times a week. And we played 2 to 3 times a week, every week for 3 years, whether we were on tour or not, just because, I believe that when you're on stage, someone can notice and feel a difference between people who have played together hundreds, if not thousands of times versus people who are just, newly on stage. And I'm not saying magic can't happen. And I've sat in with people. I've had the honor of sitting in with Blackberry Smoke numerous times. And, even the first time it was magical and it was great. So there are exceptions, but I think when you go to see a band, at least for me, I don't want to see a band who's like just getting to know each other. I want to see a band who's dialed in, and it's all the things. If you listen, one of the reasons I think Zeppelin, especially the stuff that they did live, was so powerful. There's this kind of musical language that happens even between songs. They have these transitions and they have these kind of musical statements. The songs extend themselves and there's jamming, but it's not endless jamming. It's like jamming with
direct.
Purpose.
Yeah. Direct. Yeah. It's going somewhere. It's like, what it made me think of when you said that? The live version of, man, I'm having a senior moment here. When Plant goes, if you're going to San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Dazed and Confused.
Totally.
And where he takes that song, you'd think it was rehearsed. It's not.
I swear I just got goosebumps.
I did too, man, to be honest with you. Yeah, that is just the shit.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And that comes from, I can tell you definitively, this is what I do for a living. That doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
Those performances came out of, again, thousands of live shows of them building that rapport and building that musical relationship to be able to talk to each other without talking, and Brian Weaver and I have that. He played bass in the tail end of Mount Holly and he's playing bass in the Underground Thieves. We grew up together in Silvertide. So we've been playing music since I was 15 or 16. And when we get on stage together, there's not really, even in rehearsals, we talk very little. We don't have to. We just can finish each other's sentences musically.
That's awesome.
And John Bach, who played drums in Mount Holly and also with the Thieves as well, we've grown that. I didn't meet him till about 5 or 6 years ago, but we started playing all the time. And Brian and John and I have that together now, where it's a very special dynamic. And it's one of the things that I I value and I get excited about, because, you can walk into a room and say like, okay, this is the plan. We're going to do this, 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 and this. But like, isn't it nice to just walk in and start playing and have it kind of, everyone's on the same page already.
Oh yeah.
So it's special. It's special.
You know what though, too, if you think about it, the other thing that does is when you tell guys, hey, if you want to be part of this hang, this is the requirements. We don't have gigs going now, but we need to practice 2-3 times a week. That's a really good vetting process for who's got the work ethic, who's buying into the vision, and who's not. Because it's a guy who's kind of casual about that isn't gonna be down with that. He's gonna be like, if you're gigging, I get it. But if you got someone who's like, yeah, man, that's cool because I believe in this. That's a really good vetting process. I like that.
And I'm saying this without ego, but I think the word is out, at least within the community in LA, that if you're going to get into a band with me, it's for real. It's on.
It's hammer time.
I'm not messing around, man.
Yeah.
This is what I do for a living. It's my passion. Every day that I wake up, I'm passionate about creating music. It was that way before I had a family, but now that I have a family, it's even more so because this is how I support my family. So I'm serious about music. And I think that people know if they get a call from me, it's not just to, hang out and drink beer and play riffs. Like, I mean, we'll hang out and drink beer too, but
no, I get it. It's like,
the music is serious,
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I always, not that I've known you long, but from the very first time I talked to you, that comes across loud and clear. And then looking at your videos and, your work ethic, again, it's very serious. And that's that's who you want to be hanging with. That's who you want to be listening to. The guys that are giving you a fucking 110% because, you're getting it all, man. And that's like it's a privilege to hear stuff like that from those kinds of people that are willing to give it, and it's like, wow, man, I really appreciate that because work is hard no matter what you're doing, man. If you're putting that intensity out all the time, man, it's rough.
Thank you.
Man, I have a silly question. Okay. So let me give the listeners a backdrop. Mount Holly, and I don't want to spend too much time on Mount Holly because I know they're gone. I want to talk more about Underground Thieves, but they have a video. Well, their album is called Stride by Stride, and the video is really awesome. I mean, really awesome. It's like I was telling Nick before, it's like old school, large budget MTV videos. It's really professionally done. And I just had a goofy question. You have these airwaves coming out of the MH radio antenna. How did you do that? That was just really cool.
Well, full circle moment. So the video was directed by the rhythm guitar player of Silvertide, who I'm still very close with. His name is Mark Melchior Jr. Mark, after Silvertide decided to part ways, Mark went in. He was always a big fan of production and video, and he was always filming us and making little movies and everything. So he went to work, got a cool gig with the Discovery Channel. He's freelance now, does a ton of stuff for a ton of different networks. So filmmaking is a big part of his thing. And when Stride by Stride was getting ready to be a real thing, I asked him if he would direct the video, and him and his partner, Nick Reeder, they both did it and were fantastic. And so some of the stuff you're seeing was stuff that they made happen through, the magic.
Yeah, it was like
of filmmaking.
It was a magic. It was like a Superman video where the guy just, blows the velocity blows the air through, it was like, wow, that's really, I felt silly asking that question. I was like, wow.
No, it's not silly, but
really
cool. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. I was like, how in the world?
Yeah.
I still don't know. And part of me, to be honest, I don't really want to know because I feel like it'll take away from,
yeah.
I mean, they're great at what they do.
Yeah.
So
it was good. Everybody I would encourage you to check that out. It's Stride by Stride. It's Nick's former band called Mount Holly, MOUNTHOLLY. It is a really cool, great music and a really great video.
Thanks,
you're welcome. Shift over to Underground Thieves. Okay, so let me just tell you that Nick had sent me the sneak preview of Underground Thieves' original video, and it's phenomenal. So actually, why don't we just talk about that? Because tell the whole story about the bus and it's I can't even describe it. It's so cool. It's like a little trip you're taking the listeners on with great fucking music.
Thanks, man. I had, this weird vision for the project, and I just felt like, in addition to the music, I already knew a lot of what was going to be this whole first year's worth of music. Most of it's written, and a lot of it's recorded and ready to go. But I wanted something to complement the music, to help tell the story and to introduce this group of people. And I'm a big fan of cinema and spaghetti westerns in particular.
That's what it is. I couldn't think of the term. It's a spaghetti western. Thank you, man. That's what it is.
So I'm Italian, Sergio Leone.
Great stuff.
Clint Eastwood, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West. I'm a huge Tarantino fan, so he was able to take the genre and kind of bring it into, modern times and do some super cool stuff. Kill Bill is my favorite movie of all time. Anyway, so I had this vision of what the band and the vibe would be, because we are already living it. Like, the band is based in Southern California. We're surrounded by deserts. Everybody has, myself included, I post Instagram photos almost every day of my vinyl collection, excuse me, as I'm listening to records. It's not a secret. I'm hugely inspired by the 60s and 70s. Not that I don't love a bunch of new music out today. Of course I do. But sort of my wheelhouse is stuff from that era. And whether it's, just straight ahead rock and roll, Americana, old school country, blues, all that stuff kind of melting together, it kind of gave me this imagery of what I was calling Hotel California meets Burning Man. This kind of desert, this band of misfits from the desert kind of comes together to make music and song and share it with people and share their story. So I wanted to tell a story through a visual medium and make basically a short film, which we called Capistrano. And I wrote a piece of music for it, which is a legitimate spaghetti western.
It's awesome.
It features real flute, real trumpet. John is playing a very traditional, spaghetti western style snare drum march. And it was very authentic, is what I'm saying, to us. It wasn't trying to put on something that was outside of our thing. Spaghetti western music and surf music and stuff that's real, drenched in reverb and real ambient. And I love that stuff dearly. So with this project, this is the time for me to share all the things that I love. I don't want to hold back anything. I'm not trying to put this band in a box and kind of push away the side trimmings. I want everything in there. So I called my buddy Tabor Nash, who's a motorcycle builder. He's a great friend of mine. And he's the guy who has things that no one else has. He made, going back to Stride by Stride, so he made the Mount Holly antenna.
Oh, cool. I was wondering about it. I was like, where the hell did they find this MH? Like,
he's an old school fabricator. He does things with his hands. He welds.
Oh,
and if you go to him and you say, dude, I need this built, he will build it with his hands. He's incredible.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So I said, dude, I'm about to take 12 people into the desert to shoot a spaghetti western. We're thinking of, getting an RV or some sort of, something for us to travel in and be a family. We're going to be out on the road for a week, filming, recording, all this stuff. And he goes, oh, I own a 1948 Greyhound bus. And when someone says when someone says that to you, it's one thing, but 24 hours later, when it's pulling up into your neighborhood and you can hear it from 3 miles away and all the neighbors come outside. First of all, it is so big. It's bigger than what, new bands travel in, Prevost tour buses, and I've traveled in them too. And they're beautiful. and they're big. Somehow this is bigger. It's just like, it's almost like the back end of a tractor trailer. I mean, it's just monstrous.
And it's 70 years old. Which
it is. And you ready
wow.
for this?
Yeah.
It has 1 million miles on it.
Wow.
Now they're designed
Wow.
to go from 1 to 3 million miles. So it could only be a third of the way into its life, which is unbelievable to think about.
Wow.
But it pulled up and it was like, yeah, man, this is the band. This is the tour bus. So, we all hopped in and, it broke down a couple times. He fixed it with his hands. We popped the clutch. We towed it with a truck, like a pickup truck. At one point, we were in the desert and it died. The battery died. And so we hooked up Bill Slogat, who was one of our incredible cameramen, directors. He hooked up his like dually, his pickup truck, and dragged it into second gear and tabletop clutch. And we were making these incredible memories, and I filmed everything. And little by little, I'm releasing all of it. It was a real, genuinely wonderful way to kick off the project of the Underground Thieves, because my MO with this project is authenticity. And I want to do things from the heart. I want to do things that myself and my collaborators are passionate about. You know, we're not trying, quote unquote, to do something. We're not trying to get on the radio or trying to sell records. The only thing we're trying to do is be ourselves authentically. You know, I believe that will translate and has already translated with people 10 times more than putting on a facade and trying to do something for popularity's sake or whatever. I just want to, at this point in my life, I just want to be me and make great music. And really, for the first time ever, I'm finally in the position where I can, and no one can tell me I can't, which is really great. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, you earned the position. You know, it's not like you just, you know, you fogged a mirror one day and it happened. You know, you busted your ass to get in that position. So, you know, congratulations to you. And yeah, man, it's funny you said your 60s and 70s influence, because when you play, you don't play just like him, but you play in a very similar style of Paul Kossoff, who's one of my favorite guitar players. You know, your tone and it always seems like what you're looking to get out of your the meaning, you know, the same kind of purity that he played with. I always think of that when I listen to your playing, you know, all humbucker driven and very, you know, that era.
Thank you. That's a massive, massive compliment, because I believe that he's one of the best of all time. And if I had to draw a comparison, I would say that, and people have asked me this before about my approach to the guitar. When I was a kid, really nothing's changed. I never started playing guitar to be the fastest, to play as many notes as humanly possible. To be honest with you, consider myself like a closet, you know, wannabe singer. I don't have the voice that Walt Lafty and Jameson Burt and Brent Smith and some of the other great singers I've worked with have. Cassidy, Brother Sal. The guitar is my voice.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I approach it with the way I think that a singer would be singing and telling a story. And I'm not saying, excuse me, every once in a while, it's not fun to put in a dazzling, fast riff or something. And sometimes that's a part of your playing. You've got some angst and you've got, you know, some built up whatever that you want to release, and maybe that is the best way to express it. But for the most part, what I'm trying to get out of the guitar is a human vocal-like quality. And I think that that's done through vibrato, and it's done through, you know, expressive phrasing. And when I listen to guys like Paul Kossoff, and Jimmy Page is a great example. I mean, he made the guitar, Hendrix, of course, come on. You know, they made their guitars sing, and they made you feel something. They're actually translating a human emotion through the guitar that I just don't feel when I'm listening to tapping and shredding and lots of fast playing. I somehow miss the human, and I'm not dissing any of that. It's exciting to listen to, and there are moments that I get excited by that stuff too. But like I said, for the most part, I'm trying to convey an actual emotion through the instrument, and that's kind of always been my approach.
And you mentioned the word angst that comes through in your playing. That's what I like about. That's what I'm attracted to in players. You come across with that. There's something, and this, this sounds depressing, but it's not. It sounds like, well, you're getting pain out. Great, because it's fucking awesome. Better to be out than in. And if
totally, dude, that's what the blues is.
Right.
That's what the blues is. We all have that.
Right.
Even the most happy, positive, glass half full person in the world,
sure,
somewhere inside has something to get out.
Right.
So that perhaps they can live their life in a more. I mean, dude, if it wasn't for the outlet of music and the ability to get it out, I might be a violent person. I don't know. Like. This is my therapy.
Yeah, I totally get it. I like that kind of music. I look for that. Gilmore's always been my favorite guitar player, and I hear that in almost all of his solos. It's just like but when I hear it, this is what it whatever bullshit I have in me just is rises up and goes away. That's why I like that kind of stuff. It's like you can almost physically feel it.
Pink Floyd is my all-time number one favorite band of all time.
Mine as well. You're like number the first guy who's been on the show. That took me 200 episodes. Thank God.
Number one, no question, no contest.
Yeah, I agree with you. Talk about your guitar. You're generally playing humbuckers, like I said. With Underground Thieves, 335 is usually what I see, and with Mount Holly, it was your Les Paul. And I was curious because I don't know if this question makes sense, but the tones you get, and with the fat power chords that you'll play sometimes, that's, to me, the music you're getting is more suited for a humbucker. And I was curious whether or not when you're writing songs, do you kind of maybe think about the guitar you're playing on and how to get the sound out of it, or what suits it best?
150%. So what actually happens for me is the guitar I'm playing informs the music that's being written. So if I pick up my 335 and I write a song idea on the 335, it's cemented in stone. I'm always going to play that song on a 335 because the song wouldn't exist. It came from the sound. So there's a couple different ways in which people write, and I write in a multitude of ways as well. But for me, the number one most common way is that when I sit down in my studio, I'm not wearing headphones with a little practice amp or whatever. I fire up my rig. Now it's not at full stage volume. But it's a tube amp it's somewhat loud. My wife will tell you.
What are you playing out of?
At home, I have my trusty Fender Blues Junior, which is a 15-watt tube amp. It's basically like an AC30 cut in half.
Right. What year is that?
It's not super old. It's from the early 2000s. But I do run it. My secret weapon is a 1965 Fender tube reverb tank, the kind that all surf music, Dick Dale, all the guys in the 60s, they had these tanks. And the tank is running into whatever amp I'm using. I actually bought a road case for it. I take it with me on the airplane. And my slogan is "Have reverb, will travel."
Yeah. Where did you find a 65 reverb unit that was not attached to the amp?
They do make standalone units. They're not common anymore. In the 60s, they made them, and I bought this particular one from my buddy Jesse Amoroso at Cowtown Vintage Guitars in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's Mark Chatfield's old store. Do you know Mark?
No, I don't know Mark.
Mark was the original owner of Cowtown, I think. Yeah, I'm almost
really?
100% sure. Yeah. He played with a band out of Columbus called The Gods. He's older. He's like my age.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse's the man, and if anyone out there's ever watched Pawn Stars, he's the guy they always bring in as the guitar consultant.
Yeah.
If you're looking for vintage cool gear, call Jesse. Anyway, so if I sit down and I pick up a Strat, you know, I'm going to write something that's inspired by the Strat. If I pick up a Les Paul, I'm writing something that, so moral of the story is I'm getting inspired in my studio, in my room, or at a rehearsal space, or wherever I am. I'm getting inspired by the actual sound that's coming back at me. And that sound is actually what is informing my songwriting. So absolutely, to answer your question, each song, it's for sure like, okay, yep, that's a Gibson song, that's an ES, that's a 335 song, that's a Les Paul song, that's a Strat song, that's a Telly song, whatever it may be. And it just so happens, yes, I do love humbucker guitars, and I've mostly throughout my career played Les Pauls, but I also have been a big fan of Strats, and even going back to Silvertide, Show and Tell, my first full-length record, there's mostly humbucker stuff on there, but there are a few Strat songs. I mean, dude, Gilmour is so big for me that if I didn't have a few of those moments in between,
sure,
I would be missing something tremendously. So,
very cool, man.
Good question.
Thank you. It's so deliberate. I think you used that word earlier that I was like, it has to, this is not random. It's too, it's too.
Dude, I'm the geeky guitar guy's geeky guitar guy. As you said in the intro, nothing is random. There's nothing random happening here. Every pot, every capacitor, I make my own cables. I build all my own rigs. Every part, I build my own guitars as well.
That's right. Well, I want to talk to you about that. Yeah.
So every part of the equation, from fingertips to microphone, miking up an amplifier speaker, or a speaker cabinet, every part in that equation, there's nothing is random. Everything is very purposefully done.
How much sleep do you get a night on average?
6 or 7 hours.
Wow. I'm surprised you get that much, even, to be honest with you.
I burn really hot. I'll work from 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. Nonstop hustling, writing, recording, doing what I am passionate about doing. I go into family mode. I try to, by 7 or 8 p.m., have it all turned off so I can be a good dad and play with my daughter, and we watch movies and eat popcorn, and we do the family thing. And I try to get a decent sleep because I know that the next day I'm burning, baby. I'm burning hot.
You know what? I give you a lot of credit for doing that because I should have done that more. And I was having this conversation with my wife the other day that I need to, even still now that my kids are grown. I never miss sports games. I coach their sports and we spend a lot of time together, but I worked more than I should because in the end, that 2 hours a night that you're not working, in the end of everything, is not costing you anything, but it is costing you in terms of time spent with your family. And if I have any regrets, that's one of them, that I would have done more. So I really give you credit for recognizing that, because it's hard when you are a workaholic and you're a type A, because you got, just one more thing, one more email, one more phone call, and it's real, and you're having fun, which makes it even, or I shouldn't say having fun. It's not misery by a long shot. So, because you're getting closer to the goal, whatever that goal is in a particular project. So I give you a lot of credit for doing that, man. I think really that's a very wise thing to do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Talk about, you played with a couple of artists. I was just curious how you got the gig with them and the nature of the particular engagement. And if there's any cool stories you have about working with them. And it was Perry Farrell and then Matt Sorum.
Okay. Perri Farrell will do first. I was 22 years old and Silvertide came to an end. I got signed very young. I was 16 years old when Silvertide got signed.
Holy crap.
I call it joining the circus. So I left high school 2 months in the senior year and, I'm on tour in Japan. I've never really recovered from that. I'm still in the circus. But that was a whirlwind ride. And when it ended, I was 22 years old and it was, 6 or 7 years of full on. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I didn't really have any life skills outside of, playing guitar and writing songs and that kind of thing. So I decided to move. I was in Philadelphia. I mean, during that whole time, I was never home. We were always on tour and always out, but my home base was still Philly. And I decided to move to LA. I had one friend who lived here. His name is Emal Francois Dominic. And I met him, I don't even remember how I met him, but he said, if you ever come to LA and you want to crash on my couch, just let me know. I don't think he ever thought I would take him up on it and say, like, dude, can I crash on your couch for a couple of months? So I came to LA with one guitar, one suitcase, my Les Paul, and just one suitcase, and crashed on my buddy's couch for a couple months. But as fate or luck or whatever, destiny, however you want to look at it, as that had a plan for me. I didn't know it at the time, but I was invited to participate in a Dimebag Darrell tribute concert. Dimebag was, incredibly important to so many people, and I did have the honor of meeting with him and hanging with him and playing with him a couple times. And it was, an honor to get the call to go be a part of that.
Especially at 22.
Yeah. So when I was on stage performing a couple of these songs, I didn't know it at the time, but the bass player who was also performing with me was Perry Farrell's bass player. Okay. And just a couple weeks after that show, Nuno Betancourt, who was playing guitar for Perry at the time, decided to leave. And I didn't get into the how and why and all that stuff. All I know is I got a phone call from my buddy Carl, who played bass for Perry, and he said, dude, we need a guitar player. Can you learn 22 Jane's Addiction songs in 2 days? And our first gig's on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Dude, it's the craziest phone call I still have ever gotten in my life. So I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't do drugs. I just stayed up out of pure adrenaline and learned 22 Jane's Addiction, Porno for Pyro, Perry Farrell songs in 48 hours, and showed up to rehearsal, met him, ran through the set. The next day we're on Leno, and the next day I'm at Lollapalooza, and we're on tour for a year. It was there is no time to think.
That's nuts, man.
To go, holy shit, what am I going to do? There's no time to be nervous. It was just, your body goes into this mode of just get it done, get what is in front of you, just do it. The human body is incredible. I'm in awe of it at all times.
Yeah, and the things you get used to and the things you can do. It's mental, man. If you have a mindset, if you say, I need to get this done, and that's it, and you don't give yourself a choice, that's it,
So I spent a year with Perry. It was something I am very fond about. If people go on my Facebook page, there's a ton of photos and stuff from that time, and it was a real honor. I mean, I grew up, of course, like so many people, Jane says, been caught stealing, these are timeless songs, and I was on stage playing them with the guy who wrote them, and it was really fantastic.
What a great experience, man.
Yeah, he's just the sweetest, most incredible guy. It was a real, true honor.
Cool.
Total class act. With Matt, I had met Matt Silvertide. We had this magical summer. I believe it was the summer of 2005. And in one summer, we were the opening act for Van Halen's reunion tour.
Smokes.
When they got back with Sammy. The next month, we were doing Velvet Revolver, their first shows ever. They did a run of 12 theater shows as a warm-up before they went to arenas. And so Silvertide did all 12 theater shows. It was before their album even dropped with Scott, and Slash and all those guys. And that's where I met Matt. And then the next month we were doing the Motley Crue reunion tour, Carnival of Madness or Carnival of Sins, whatever. It was a crazy summer. My liver has still not.
Yeah, those guys are all party bands, man.
But anyway, Matt and I became friends during the Velvet Revolver tour. And when trying to think, I guess it was after the Perry Farrell thing. Oh, so I had kind of gotten introduced to him again a few years later when I was with Perri, because with Perri we did a few shows with Velvet Revolver as well. So when I got home from the Perri Farrell thing, Matt called and asked if I wanted to hang out and, play some tunes, write some songs, play some shows, which I did with him for a little while. And it was great. Another guy, class act, super sweet, humble, professional, killer drummer. When you're in a room with him and he starts playing the drums, you're like, oh yeah, there's a reason why, you're Matt Sorum, because he just has that thing, he's so solid. So solid.
Thanks for sharing. Those are good stories, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You're originally from Philly, grew up in a conservative Catholic household. Just you and your sister?
Me and my sister, or my sister and I, from my parents' my dad's current marriage. Actually, my mom and dad just celebrated 40 years.
Wow. Congratulations. That's very cool. Holy
this
shit.
Last Sunday.
You've been married a while too, haven't you?
Yeah, we're going on 7 years.
That's congratulations, man. That's awesome. Good
Thanks,
for you, man. That's very cool.
I do have some half brothers and sisters.
Okay.
As well. They didn't grow up with me and my sister and I keep having terrible grammar here.
It's all right. This is Everyone Loves Guitar show. You could say
no one's judging me.
Whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, good.
I do get. You know what? The only negative. Sorry, go ahead. You say
No. Say it.
The only negative email I've gotten one time is someone said, "You don't speak very well. You curse," and I'm like, I'm talking to guitar players. This isn't like My Favorite Nun.
Well, we're having a real conversation, and this is how we talk in real life.
Yeah,
it's not normal to censor yourself in normal life.
No, definitely not.
So, if anything, on the radio, it's more weird when you're not cursing because you're censoring yourself and you're having to think about things before you say them. So, I think this is a cool medium, and I would encourage you to curse repeatedly. But
I wanted to respond. They didn't give me their email address, and I was going to respond. She says, "You also say too much," and this is right, and I struggle with that. And I wanted to respond.
I do too.
I wanted to respond and say, "You are 100% correct," but she didn't. I think it was a woman. I don't know why they didn't leave their email address. It was like an anonymous thing. I was going to say, so if you're listening, you are 100% right in all your comments. Duly noted.
Well, the only reason I'm thinking of it is because I'm in dad mode where I'm conscious of my speech and I'm trying to teach. Manners to me is super important. So I want my daughter to be respectful and to say please and thank you and to have proper manners when she talks, So that's why I'm conscious of it. If it wasn't for me being in this mode at this time, I would probably not care.
You know what? It's important to do that. I did the same thing with all of my kids. And because sometimes like people will tell me that now they're adults, so I get it. And they are very, very respectful. They look in the eye. Yes, sir. No, sir. But when they were like in their teenage years, I'd hear, "Oh, your kids are so respectful." I'm like, not in the house. Like, thank you.
Well, hey, that's going to make you feel good. It's working.
Yeah. Are you sure you got my kids? Is it my kids? But yeah, I think that's really important because I'd have kids come over here over the years. I never forget one kid came over one time. This kid's sitting at the dinner table and he goes to my wife. He goes, "Give me the butter." And I just looked at him and I said, "Is that like, excuse me, can you please pass the butter?" I was like, holy shit.
It does not compute, bro.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think that's really good. A little common courtesy will make your daughter like way off the charts different, So anyway, sorry. That's a parenting segment of this show.
Dude, we're keeping it real. Real life.
What kind of work did your dad do?
My dad is a master, self-proclaimed master barber, 50 years behind the chair.
Awesome.
And my mom is a hairdresser.
Very cool. So they're keeping it all in the family there.
Yeah, man. They have been working together on and off for 40 years.
That's very cool. That's good, easy cross-selling. Hey, who does your husband's hair?
Totally. But what's funny, when I was a teenager and I'd be hanging out, my dad would say, "Don't come and don't hang in front of the barbershop because the barbershop's a cool place to hang.
Right, it is.
Don't hang in front of the barbershop. You're bad for business.
Because your hair is long.
My hair is super long sideburns. It's like, this is not the representation that we want in front of our shop.
Oh man, I love you, son, but beat it.
You're bad for business. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's funny. We talked about this a little bit, that how driven you are, and I think we both connected on that the first time we spoke. I was curious where that drive came from, and you mentioned your family helps keep it going, but inherently in you, where does that clock tick, or why does that clock tick?
That's a great question, and I wish I had a better answer. I don't know. I wake up in the morning and I have this urge to make today the best day that it can be and make it better than yesterday, and to do better work, to reach more people, to be a better guitar player and a better songwriter and a better dad. And I don't know where it comes from. And sometimes, look, there's a million ways to look at things. It's a blessing and a curse, sometimes, because I can't turn it off.
Yeah,
it's very hard for me to take a day off. It's very hard for me to go on vacation. My wife will tell you, it's very hard for me to turn that switch off. Even at night, when I'm in family time, I try to be as present as I can, and I'm getting better at it. But when you own your own business, when you have your own band, none of this is 9 to 5. So it's not like we clock in, we clock out, and then woo, we're free. I'm thinking about the Underground Thieves and Silvertide and Mount Holly and all the things I've done and want to still do. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying in bed last night, and I knew I had to be up today at 7 because we're announcing, tickets on sale for the next shows and all that stuff. But it's hard to turn it off. But I'll take it.
Yeah. But it sounds like you just get a lot of fulfillment out of progress.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I do as well. It's exciting.
I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
So it's not really, can't really compare it to anything other than this is who I am, and I've always kind of had it, so.
Well, it's a good quality. I agree with you. It is a blessing, a curse. It's a better problem to have than being completely lazy, I think.
I agree.
To be honest with you.
I agree.
Although sometimes I do wish I was completely lazy, because sometimes I'm off. I don't know what to do. So I'll go outside and smoke a cigar, but I just can't, I can't sit in front of the television. I don't have a hard time with that. I don't know if you have that, but
I do. It's hard to turn it off. It's hard to turn it off. Yeah. When we, my wife and I don't get to go away a lot, but when we do, I always bring a guitar.
Yeah.
Even on our honeymoon to Hawaii, I brought a guitar.
Dude, you went to Hawaii? Where'd you go? I went to Hawaii on my honeymoon a lot earlier than you, though. A lot earlier. Where'd you go?
We went to the north, whatever they call the North Shore. It's the big island, Kauai.
Kauai's not the big island is Hawaii.
Hold on, my wife is saying no. Which island was it? Turtle Bay, wherever that is.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's on the North Shore. It's like Turtle Bay is where all the big surfing stuff is.
Okay.
Oahu, is that it?
Yeah, that's on. Okay. That's not Hawaii. That's Oahu. Yeah, that's the island. It's Oahu. Oh, okay. So you went near. What's that big?
It is the island that Honolulu's on.
Right.
So you land. You don't have to take another flight. You land and then you just drive north.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Honolulu Bay, is that over there? Because that's
probably.
Yeah.
That's probably next to Turtle Bay.
I think it is, because that's where the big thing sticks out, and that's where all the surfing is, right on the other side of that. So it must be that. Yeah, it's really cool, man. I love Hawaii. We went on our honeymoon. We went to Kauai and the Big Island. And actually, we're going to go back, because we just hit 25 years together, and we're going to go back
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Once my third kid is gone out of the house, I think we're going to, maybe next summer or the following summer latest, go out again for a couple of weeks,
Nice.
It was a good thing. Good memories there, man. I'm just so proud we made it. To be honest with you.
You should be.
And we still like each other. So
that's an accomplishment, man.
Yeah, it is. It was a lot of work, man. You know, you can't. It's like running a bit.
You can't phone it in. There's no way that you have to be present, and both people have to want it.
Yeah, you have to, because a guy told me one time, because I didn't really have good role models for this stuff, and a guy told me one time, he said, Craig, a marriage is like, he said, a marriage is like a business. If you stop working it, it stops working. And I always remembered that. And I didn't know that before that. So I always said, okay, I got to just put effort into this thing. I can't just, be on the sidelines and watch it. And that was really valuable advice for me. It was some of the most valuable advice I ever got in my life. So it was, and now it's good because we're at the point where none of us want to argue. And if there is an argument, the other person quickly says, hey, listen, let's fix this. Let's work it out. And it's like, wow, when that started happening, it was so like, such a, it was very, because she's a type A, I'm a type A. And so it's, we've learned how to negotiate our type A's with
not easy.
No, it's not easy at all. You get two strong personalities. So, but we both always had the same end goal. So I'm very grateful for that we always worked, together. I married up.
Well, dude,
I married up.
We all did. I was just going to say what you just described is translates to bands so well. And my experience, having been in quite a few bands, many of which didn't stay together for long periods of time, the most important thing, and I would encourage anybody who's thinking about starting a band and getting together to make music with somebody, having the same end goal. You said it. The same end goal is extremely critical. You can't have two different ideas of where you want the band to go, or two different levels of achievement.
Sure.
This guy's happy with this, but this guy wants to do this. It'll never work. Everybody has to be locked in. This is where we want to get. Or be locked in on the idea of you don't know where you're going, and you're okay with that too. But you gotta be locked in, because the number one thing that breaks up bands, in my experience, is just coming off the same page with somebody as far as what your expectations and what your goals are for the actual group and the music.
And I think that's very, very difficult, because think about it, how hard it is with two people, then three people. So it's not, it's like exponentially more difficult. It's not like twice as hard or three times as hard. It's very tough.
And that's why there's only three bands, the Stones and the Who and, whoever, U2, that have been around for 20, 30 years, because and how many incredible bands have come and gone.
Yeah. Tens of thousands.
So, but that's okay too, because sometimes it's about, this little blip of our journey, some magic stuff happened. I don't regret it. I don't regret the Silvertide experience or the Mount Holly experience. They were wonderful times, but I'm just saying, in an ideal world, giving out advice here, if you're starting a band, if you've got friends, guys and girls in your neighborhood, in your school, if you're listening to this and you want to, get serious about music, regardless of what level it's on, even if your goal is to be, to play TGI Fridays, once a week, killer. As long as everybody is locked in and wants to do that, and that's the goal, then you're going to be fine. You don't have to be wanting to conquer arenas, to be successful. I think success is finding happiness and fulfillment in whatever it is that you're doing, on whatever scale that you're doing it. So
that's really great advice, man. And you know what? I don't think most people even know the question to ask. It's one of those things. What do they say? It's like, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's a simple, but it's not easy to do. And I was just sitting there thinking, I bet these people don't even know if they knew that question to ask, like, I don't think people even realize, especially when they're young, you don't have a lot of coping skills when you're young. You don't know, okay, what do we need? Do we have to have a goal? What do we need to do to keep, you don't even think to ask that question, but that was really good advice, man. Yeah, that was
thanks.
It's a workshop.
I've learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
When I started, 16 and green as can be, and I didn't ask those questions either. And the end result was, the ship going down in flames, and with a lot of bruised egos and a lot of one guy in jail, for fist fighting the other guy. True story.
Wow.
So it's like, if anyone wants to soak up advice from that's the thing. When you're young, it's really hard to hear stuff, and it's I think a part of life. It's like, you can tell me don't stick my finger in that outlet, but I'm going to do it until I get shocked and go like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, and I wish it wasn't that way. It's some sort of weird quality in our human psyche that just, we have to kind of figure it out on our own. And what I tell people is, you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you take advice, you don't have to get burned, not that it's, impossible to steer clear of every type of mistake. We're all going to make mistakes, hundreds of thousands of them. But, I wish I had someone that told me that, because I would have had a longer conversation at the start of certain bands and said like, hey, does everyone want to do this? Does everybody want to go
like you're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the conversation you're having now. Like you said with the guys from Mount Holly, hey, this is 2-3 times a week. And we're doing, you having that conversation now.
Yeah. Do you guys want to spend thousands of hours rehearsing and then, a lot of time on the road and tour Japan and tour Europe? And, does it sound like something that is fun for you? And if the answer is yes, then giddy up, because it is going to be fun.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't sound like something you want to do and it's not going to be fun for you, it's going to make it less fun for everybody else, because that kind of, mood and vibe, it's a contagious thing.
Yeah.
And when you're out on the road, especially, you're in a bubble, you're in a tour bus, you're in an airplane, you're in a train, you're in a van with a group of people for extended periods of time. Even one negative personality and one negative kind of mindset about where you are and what you're doing can be contagious.
That's
and
tough.
It's like, I don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. Like, I want to enjoy the journey every day. I want to enjoy the experience of being here and getting to do this for a living, because it's a true joy and an honor. It's something I don't take for granted. Every t-shirt that, we sell, every ticket that's bought, I am grateful. I'm a grateful human being, because I know that it's not, it's something special.
Yeah.
It's something not to be overlooked. And I think that, perhaps that comes from just getting older a little bit and having eaten some humble pie in my lifetime. But, I would encourage anybody who's doing it, anybody who's getting into it, to have these kind of thoughts and conversations. There's nothing bad that can come out of just having a conversation with somebody, and seeing if you're on the same page.
Yeah, that's the most important thing you just said, is nothing, there's no downside to any of that talk.
No.
Yeah. It's funny because my older son, he'll be 28 soon, and he's got a 3-year-old, and he called me the other day and asked me like I'm having I didn't know what to do with my daughter in this situation. And he thought he made a mistake. And I said, look, here's the good news, man. I said, number one, parenting is really difficult. I said, so you're going to make a bunch of them. I said, the good news is I'm pretty confident you get to do it over next week to see if you can do it better. So she's only 3.5, so we're almost 4. But, I was really glad that he called me to ask me that stuff now, because that's a typical example. When he was younger, I couldn't tell him shit, and now he's calling me, so I felt like, well, I must have done something right, and it was always a good feeling. But yeah, you're right. I didn't listen to anything either, so it's not like I'm immune to that.
Well, you just said it well, and that should make you feel good, because you did a good job.
It made me feel great. It made me feel wonderful. Yeah, it made me feel, because you always, like, I'm the same with my parenting than I'm with my business. I'm always like, oh, I should be doing better. And you never know. I mean, my kids aren't axe murderers, so I guess like I didn't do, they're not socially deviant, they're like functioning members of society, but you never know, like, are they going to be sitting on the couch in a therapist's office talking about me one day or whatever, and I so little things like this tell me that like, okay, that's a little attaboy for me. You don't usually, and it's tough raising kids because you don't get that. My son's 27. I'm just started getting him the last year or two. So it's a long journey, man.
Well deserved.
Yeah, I would say.
Hey,
it is.
Totally random.
Yeah.
But I knew I liked you, and now I like you even more because I just saw a cat behind you.
Oh, we got a bunch here, man. My wife is like, give me the Statue of Liberty of cats. Give me you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry. So all
that is my wife as well.
My kids have brought home various and sundry cats, and they all have residence here, man. This one's weird. She doesn't leave the room. I don't know. She's socially weird. She won't leave this room. I don't know. She won't integrate with the other cats. Let's talk.
Here's my guitar pick.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Nick's got a Mr. Bigglesworth cat. What is that cat?
I do. They're called Sphinx.
Sphinx. Yes.
My wife and I have two. One is Cairo, and the other one's name is Anubis. We have nicknames, High Boy and Tiny, but they're like our own personal little mascots. And Cairo, he's been on every guitar pick I've had for
That's so funny, man.
5 or 6 years. Yeah, we're crazy cat people.
That's awesome. That's good, man. Talk about gear for a few. Oh, one question, and I normally don't ask this question, but because you're young. But you've been doing this so long, I'm just curious. If you had to go back and give advice to Nick Perri 10, 15 years ago, what advice would you have given yourself?
That's a great question. And I think my answer would have been to know and have confidence in your vision and not to compromise that vision for any one person or situation that comes up. I feel like through my career, I've always started certain projects with an idea, with a vision, with a goal, and not all the times, but sometimes I've allowed little compromises, and in the moment they don't feel so heavy and they don't feel like such a big deal. But if you zoom the lens out, a lot of little compromises spread out over time, looking back and looking out, can make a huge difference in the overall trajectory of where the ship was steered. So I feel like, and this isn't for everybody, but if you are a type A, if you are the leader of a band, of a creative endeavor, if you have a vision, especially if you're a songwriter, if you have an identity as an artist, and it means something to you and you believe in it, no matter how cool or uncool or popular or how against the grain or whatever the social, the time that we're living in or whatever, however it may be looked at or viewed, forget all that shit. If you have a belief or a core vision for something, stand up for it and don't compromise.
Man, that was well said. And I'm glad you actually brought that up because I wrote down a note earlier, and I'm always trying to study success. And you made a comment earlier, and it struck me that this is a very core component of success. You said, when I started the Thieves, Underground Thieves, I had a vision for my first year's worth of music. And I thought that was incredibly powerful because that is, to me, a very success-oriented, I think it's a very success-driven bus, to use the appropriate pun here. You have this this isn't like a whim. This is a very structured, conceptually structured, and you have a vision where you're going to see this thing. You know, like it's like a map. You know where the map. You know what the territory looks like. You're going to go through here and here and here. And I just wanted to point that out because I'm always trying to study success and learn more. And I thought that was a very powerful statement that would lead towards success. And I like to point that stuff out to people because I think I've done so many projects over the years, and I think my lesson is most of this shit's up in your head, you know, and sometimes, you know, that old expression, if you think it's going to happen, it's, you know, whatever you think about sort of, it's going to happen, you know, and I think that's very true in many cases. So
thoughts become things.
Yeah. Thoughts become things. That's right. Was that Jim Rohn?
I get these things called notes from the universe. Are you hip to this?
No. Tell me about it though, because it sounds like something I need to get in my email.
Okay.
Notes from the universe.
Yes. His name is Mike Dooley. And funny enough, not so funny, he has a website. It's I don't want to say business. I mean, it is a business, but it's free for anybody who wants to be a part of it. And the abbreviation is TUT, T-U-T, okay. Which funny enough is the same initials of the Underground Thieves. I call it TUT as well.
That's right.
And
so
what it is.
.com?
Yeah. So if you sign up, you enter in your name and all that stuff. Let me actually just make sure it's tut.com. Yep. Tut.com. Every day of the work week, you get a letter emailed to you from the universe. And it's not any specific religion, denomination based thing. It's kind of all inclusive, but some of it is tapping into more of the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible and great and puts us in a certain headspace, a mindful headspace. But every day you get like a little motivational quote. And the whole idea behind it is that thoughts become things.
Yeah, it's true.
It's 100% true. And just so right now I'm sitting at my desk, my studio, right? So I actually printed one out and I leave it here and I look at it every day. I mean, I've been getting them for years, every single day. But this one I love. I'm going to read it to everybody.
Yeah.
Thinking big but acting small, Nick, is the same thing as thinking small. Shiver me timbers, the universe. So there you can see it.
Very cool.
A little reminder that you can't. You can think big, you can have great ideas, but you have to put in the legwork. You have to do it. You have to show up.
Yeah, you can't, like the book Think and Grow Rich, you got to actually do it. You're not going to get it unless you're thinking, but if you're thinking only, they're just going to skip that part, you know? Okay, Nick, so let's talk gear for a few minutes. Like right now, what's your go-to guitar and what other two guitars might round out your top three?
That's a great question. My top three at the moment is a different top three than you would have seen in years past. So I'm glad you're asking. For this project, right off the bat, I knew the 335 was going to be the lead guitar. For pretty much my whole career, my number one guitar was a Les Paul Custom named Bella, a Black Beauty. And I still have Bella. She's wonderful. But when I got turned on to the semi-hollow world, I mean, I tell this to people all the time. You can play any guitar and pick up a 335 or similar and be fine if it goes in that order. But if you pick up a 335, it's so hard to pick up another guitar after that because there's some sort of connection, especially at a loud volume, where the whole guitar physically vibrates, because at all times, it's kind of feeding back at all times, even when it's manageable or it doesn't sound like what we consider to be, stereotypical feedback. It is technically feeding back and vibrating at all times, and it physically vibrates your body. And so you have this connection with the instrument and with the notes that you're playing where you can actually, not to sound cheesy, but you can literally feel them. You can
Yeah.
feel the notes. And this is exaggerated again at high volumes. It's really hard to go back from it once you're exposed to it. So 335.
What year? Yours is a vintage, isn't it?
It's not. Well,
I thought it was a vintage.
It's a 59 reissue that was made in 1999.
Okay.
So depends on what you're considering. I don't think the 90s are vintage yet, but
no, no, I thought it was like a 68 or something like that.
No, it's actually a semi-newer one, and it took me a while to find it because I have big hands and I prefer fat necks. And
are you tall?
I don't know. I don't think so. 5'10".
Yeah, no, because you're like average height. Because I'm 5'9". I do not have big hands. I need a thin neck. That's why I asked if you're tall, because I didn't think you. I thought you were like 5'10".
For whatever
5'11".
reason, I have long limbs. My sister makes fun of me all the time that I have very long arms. Like she thinks when I just stand straight up and down, my arms like go way past my knees.
That's all right, man. You got like a swimmer's thing going.
Yeah, I've got long arms and long fingers. And anyway, it took me a while to find a 59. I wanted a made in Nashville custom shop with a big neck, and the 59. It just took me a while to find, but once I found it, like I said, it's really hard to play anything else. That's my main guitar. I would say the second main guitar, and people are going to hear it for the first time on Chapter 3, Danger Light, is a Strat that I built myself. It's a Perri Inc. Strat style guitar. I call it the Strat Killer because there's something magical about this guitar. And typically, and this is, for people who build guitars or work on guitars or super tone enthusiasts, there's a common sort of agreement that up to 70% of a guitar's tone can actually come from its neck, which I do agree with. This is a weird exception where I would say that almost 80% of the tone of this guitar is the body. And I can verify that because I've had 2 different necks on it, and I've had a variety of pickups and configurations electronically. And no matter what I do to the guitar, I can't do anything bad to it. Like, it only just destroys everyone else's Strats that I know. And even though I've changed things, it's something about the body, and the body was gifted to me. It was just a blank body. My buddy, Eric Coleman, who's one of the cats behind StewMac, which is a great company. They make tools for luthiers, and he gifted me the body because they couldn't sell it because it's solid one-piece swamp ash, but there's knots. It's knotted, like, how wood get knots. It's knotted all the way through in the center, like you can actually see through it. And so they considered it like a blemish that no one would want. But guitar guys know certain things. And as soon as he said, I've got this knotted piece of swamp ash, I was like, oh my God, I have to have it. There's something in the molecules of the wood or whatever it is, man. It is just, I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah, man. So this is because of the knot, it has a extra mojo, basically.
Well, again, to be honest with you, because there's a hole right through it, I almost feel like it has semi-hollow properties.
Okay.
Like my 335. So you can't see the hole through it because there's a pickguard on the front, but there is a hole in the trem cavity.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah. But look at the grain on this guitar.
It's pretty.
It's just
it's
crazy.
Really pretty. So anyway, wait a minute. You made, so Perri Inc. is your company. Are you still making guitars? What are you doing that in between, like, after you get off the treadmill and before you start the video shoot for the next Underground Thieves? So when do you have time to do this shit? Man.
The truth is I don't have a lot of time anymore, but in 2009, I did launch a custom guitar business. When I was off from the road, it just made sense because I've been building guitars and working on guitars and been super geeky as geeky could be with guitars since I was 12.
Okay.
And my wife said to me, because I was building guitars for myself and they were really cool, and all my friends started to want them. And she's like, it may not be a bad idea. Like, why don't you build a few, put them online and see what happens? So in a short amount of time, I sold a decent amount of guitars for one guy building in a garage.
Yeah.
And it had just coincided with, I hit 10 years that I was on tour almost without any breaks.
Wow.
And I had just gotten married.
How'd you have time to meet your wife? Where'd you meet her, actually? I was curious.
I walked in, I was telling you about the Perri Farrell gig.
Yeah.
And the first day of rehearsals at SIR Studios in LA, I walked in, I met him for the first time then. This was during that 48 hours of like, oh shit, I have to learn his whole catalog.
Songs.
Yeah. So I walked in and he was super excited as he always is, and said, I have this great idea. Everybody on the tour, for a year-long tour, he's talking, everybody's going to wear white. And you could hear a pin drop in the room because all musicians, a lot of musicians,
they wear black.
They're black, baby. My whole closet's black.
Yeah.
And blue denim. There was nothing that I owned, not even one thing, not even a shoelace that was white. So he wanted us to come in the next day and everybody put all their white clothes in a pile in the center of the room, and we're all going to share because we're all skinny, around the same size.
You're all rock stars.
Everyone's going to share. Everyone's going to share these clothes. And so
like non-musicians don't come up with ideas like that. Like I've never been hanging out with my buddies. And, hey man, let's fucking share clothes. That's such a music thing.
But if you, and I'll send you a picture when we hang up. There's this great photo of us on the Tonight Show, and everybody's in white and silver, and the band looks fucking killer.
Really? I'd like to. Is that on YouTube?
It is. You can YouTube Perri Farrell, Nick Perri, Satellite Party, Jay Leno. It's on there.
Okay.
Anyway, so I walked into a store. This is a really long story, so I'm going to cut it down exponentially. I walked into a store on Melrose Avenue to buy a shirt, and I met my wife.
She was working in the retail store.
Correct. She was managing a shop on Melrose, very famous shop called Shrine, which has done clothes for TVs and movies and music videos for decades. All kind of cool, like Victorian era, super old, almost, gothic, kind of like French, New Orleans-y, masquerade-y kind of cool stuff. So I went in there. I asked her out. She said no.
Right there? Dude, props right to you, man.
To my face, she said no. And she continued to say no for 2 years. I would go into the store on every break from Perri Farrell and Shinedown and bring her roses, bring her flowers, ask her out maybe 20, 30 times over the course of those couple years. And she always said no. Eventually, she said yes to one date.
Right.
And that's it. We've been together ever since.
That's a great story. Why did she keep saying no?
Well, she's from this area, so she was like, another rock guitar player with long hair. Okay. She was very unimpressed by my resume.
Okay, well, you know what? She's dealing with guys like that all day long, so she's probably allergic to them. Totally. I totally get that. Wow.
But you know what? When she said yes to a date, it's also true. It was New Year's Day, 2009. Okay, I just left Shinedown a month prior at the end of 2008. I walked in, I cut my hair, not all of it, but I cut it probably half, half of its length, and put on a 3-piece suit with a pocket watch.
Oh my God, how funny is that?
Nice shoes, what do they call them? Wingtips?
Yeah.
And I walked in, and that's how I got the date. I had to class it up, dude. I had to class it up.
She's like, oh, you clean up well. Good for you, man. That's an awesome story. What a cool story. And then you've been together 9 years.
Yes, we have.
That's so cool, man. Congratulations. That's a nice story. Thank you for sharing that, man. It's cool. Very cool. I do like that.
So anyway, she encouraged me to start building and put it out there. And it kind of coincided with me needing a break, not from music, but from touring.
Sure.
And I decided to take a wild plunge. So we hooked up with a couple investors. We opened up a shop on Melrose Avenue. called the Perri Cartel, and it was a motorcycle, guitar, clothing store, tattoo shop. It was a really kind of ahead of its time hybrid rock and roll lifestyle kind of shop.
Man, I give you a lot of credit. You really don't do anything 50%. You're really, because there's a difference between, okay, let me start a guitar shop. I'll work out of the back of my garage. And
go big or go home, baby.
Well, but there's a certain amount of creativity that you needed to say, well, why don't I create a brand around this? And the brand we'll have retail, we'll have this. You thought about what you are interested in or the kind of stuff you knew you could sell and attract. I think that's really creative. That's very, very impressive, man. Really respectful. That's not easy. That's not normal. And I mean that in a really positive way. Not conventional. It's probably a better way to say that. Yeah, that's awesome. But you know what? And also, you just mentioned Shinedown twice, and we never talked about Shinedown once. So I was like, you were at Shinedown? When did this happen?
When I got off the road with Perri.
Right.
Brent called me and asked me if I'd like to come out and play with them. And at this point in my life story, like I said, I'd been out on the road for a long time, and I had been exposed to doing it two ways. One, I'm a songwriter. I wake up every day, I write songs, and my greatest joy in life, regardless of how many people I'm playing in front of, is playing my own music when I get on stage.
Sure.
And so I toured the world and done that for so many years. And then I did it the other way with Perri, which was an honor to play those songs, but they were not my songs, and touring is hard. And in my mind, touring is exponentially harder when you're not playing your own stuff, or your fulfillment level is less than what it could be, and this doesn't go for anybody or for everybody. And I'm not trying to talk down in any way about going out and playing someone else's music. Playing music for a living, regardless of what the situation is always an incredible thing and an honor and exciting and something to be appreciated. But every musician is different, and every musician has different goals. And my goal is to headline Madison Square Garden with my own original tunes.
Dude, that's so cool.
I'm going to do it. And again, taking gun for hire gigs is something that has brought me joy for a time, but it was something that I just couldn't commit to long term because I wake up and I write songs every day, and I just genuinely want to play my own songs. So I did go out with Shinedown for a year. I had the best time. The guys in the band are incredibly sweet.
Was there like a slot open? Like what happened there?
Yes, there was
without
a slot.
getting into like gossip or anything like that. I mean, the slot just happened to open up.
Yeah. Yes. And they were very sweet to me. They were very kind to me. I went out playing lead guitar and had a blast, toured the world, 40 different countries, really had fun. But ultimately, it wasn't bringing me the fulfillment that I was after. And I was honest with them. I was honest with the fans. This is the same story I've said for 10 years. It's no disrespect. I love those guys and I wish them all the best. But it wasn't something that I, again, was getting, the fulfillment I knew I kind of needed in my life. So when I left the band, I, again, had been out on the road almost 10 years and needed a break. So that's when we opened the shop. But what's ironic is the break didn't last long, and I found myself going out and touring, and my wife was left to run the shop by herself, and then she got pregnant, and it was like, we have to make a choice here, So it came down to whether I was going to continue, playing and writing and touring and being a musician, or I was going to give that up and be a business owner. But I needed to do something because she couldn't be at the shop full time anymore.
Sure.
So no surprise, I chose music.
Yeah.
So where the business stands now, I guess you could say it's on pause. The shop is done. And for a short time we had stuff online only. And now it's kind of, just on pause because there is only so many hours in the day. And as you pointed out, it's impossible for me to do 50 things. And I don't even really want to do 50 things. I'd rather just do 5 things really well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man.
But if somebody emails me and says, "Hey, would you build me a guitar? I have an idea for a guitar."
And
whatever.
Here's a deposit.
Yeah, I don't say no.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. So I've been building on occasion when I have time in between all the music stuff, you know. But it's something I'll always do, and I still do it for me. So I still build myself guitars if I have an idea of a tone that's in my head that I can't get out of something I can buy in the store. I'll go in the garage and I'll spend a few months, little by little, putting something together to fulfill a purpose. They're tools.
Yeah, of course.
But they are inspiring tools, and they're sexy tools. And when you look at them, you know, I'm looking at my Strat right now and my 335, and just looking at a guitar for a person like me can get me excited. Yeah. And then when I pick it up, there could be a song there waiting for me. I guess moral of the story with all of this, and as much as I love playing guitar and soloing and using it as a voice and all that stuff, I somehow think it just always comes back to songwriting for me. Is I just want to be inspired and write a great song. And I always feel like that's the vehicle to deliver everything else. You know, a great song can change the world. And if I'm lucky enough in my lifetime to write one song, you know, that changes somebody's life in a meaningful way, then I feel like that's a life, you know, well spent. So I'm always chasing that. And I feel like the guitar playing, the videos, you know, the lots of other, you know, offshoots of all the things that we've talked about on this interview, they're all kind of waiting at the end of this rainbow. That is a great song. The song is the delivery method of all that stuff.
Yeah.
If it's not a good song, no one's going to listen to it. They're not going to listen to the lyrics. They're not going to listen to who's singing. It's got to be a good song. So that's kind of where I start all of my motivation from. Is it a good song? Is someone going to really enjoy listening to it? And if they are, it is a good song, great. Then we can do all this other stuff to kind of, you know, tell a story and to embellish it and to make it, you know, the best it can be. But
those are all, it's like a distribution of the song. All those things are kind of like pushing the message out, really.
Totally. And same thing with guitar playing. It's like, you know, Slash and Guns N' Roses. This is, I was talking the other day, I forget to who, about this exact thing. So those iconic Slash guitar solos, whether it be November Rain or Don't Cry or Sweet Child of Mine, right? A guitar solo to me is only really as good as the chords that are happening underneath of it and the song that is cradling it. I mean, those solos on their own, without the songs, nobody would care, is what I'm saying. Nobody would care. They're great songs with great guitar solos and great tone and great playing.
Yes.
And they're going to last the test of time. You know? Even
Gilmore's stuff we talked about, same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same thing. I want to talk about 2 more guitars real quick.
Yeah.
And we can move on. There is a guy, a friend of mine, who lives in Forked River, New Jersey. His name is Rob Mondell. And he's built guitars for some pretty incredible people. He's a real luthier.
We talked about that guy because I thought he was related to Ed Mundell, remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So,
you know what? He must be like a listener of mine because I saw him, I think it was something Mundell Music. Is that the name of his company maybe?
Mondell Custom Guitars?
So, I don't know. I saw another guy, Mundell. I thought it was the same guy. Maybe it's not, like sharing a bunch of podcasts. So I was like, oh, if that's the same dude. I don't know. But anyway.
I don't know either. Maybe. Rob, I've known since I was a kid. And his company was called Just Insane Guitars for a long time. And he recently changed the name to Mondell Custom Guitars. I know that the listeners can't see this, but I'm showing you through Skype here. It's an incredible work of art, and he's built me a few over the years.
It's like a double cutaway Les Paul with a P90 kind of.
Yeah, it's not too far off from I guess a Les Paul Jr. or Special double cut, but it's this one that you can see the contours in the wood.
Yeah, beautiful.
Are very different. And what's unique about this one, this is a unitone model. So the neck is screwed into a piece of aluminum that runs down here. That's the pickup screws into it, and the bridge screws into it. So the bridge, the pickup, and the neck are all kind of on this plate of metal, okay, that's vibrating. And I'm calling it like the circle of tone, but something magic happens, okay, when everything is vibrating and it's all connected. And I'm telling you that even more so than a 12-pound Les Paul, this guitar has more sustain than you could even imagine. I know the Spinal Tap thing, take a bite and come back and it's still sustaining, but it is. So I've been using this guitar a bunch. This is going to appear on some future chapters. He's fantastic. He built guitars for tons of cool people. He built Charlie a guitar from Blackberry Smoke. He's done stuff for a whole bunch of people, Chris Robinson and even I'm blanking on names. Oh well, go look them up, listeners of the world. The other one, I'll leave it with this. I'm not known for a lot of acoustic work, but in this band, I am pulling out acoustic stuff, not necessarily acoustic driven songs, but I'm using, a good acoustic guitar, the percussiveness of it, even behind electric guitar tracks, there's something special that happens in a mix. And if you listen to all that old Stone stuff, Exile on Main Street, even songs that are driven by electric guitars, they have an acoustic that's tucked in the background. It's providing like this, again, a percussive kind of driving element. So I never really experimented with that before this band. And to be honest with you, I never really owned a great acoustic guitar before this band. But I did happen to acquire a 62 Gibson LG3, which is a small-bodied acoustic guitar. Take out my headphone for 1 second.
Yeah, man, let me see that bad boy. That's amazing that guitar is over 50 years old.
This is as close as I've ever come to, the real deal kind of acoustic guitar tone. There's something about it. It's instantly warm and woody, and I don't know, it just has a magic to it. It has a certain magic to it that makes you want to play it and put it in things. And so all of a sudden, for the first time, I found myself going, okay, now I'm going to actually write with this in mind, which is, again, it's another tool, it's another avenue, and it's another thing to help inspire songs. And that's all that I care about gear for.
Wait, before you put that down, man, let's just hear a little.
I don't know if you'll hear it, but.
Funny, that reminded me of the old Sohn stuff, like take me to this, that kind of stuff. I can't sing
totally,
but, that was in that genre.
And funny you mention that, because this year, this 62, so this has an acrylic bridge instead of the wood bridge that happened through the 50s, and I think 62 might have been the first year, or 61, that they went to this kind of it's actually ceramic. It's a ceramic bridge, but a lot of the Sohn stuff was recorded on models that had this. So it really does. It's cool that even through
it's
a pair of Apple headphones into a computer, beaming to a satellite, back down to you, that you said the Stones, because that's what it is. You got good ears, dude.
I do have good ears. I'm fortunate. That's amazing that guitar is 55, 56 years old, man. It looks great. It looks really good. A couple of questions. Number one, a comment on something you said as far as playing music being so much more rewarding. I think most players I've interviewed that are also artists and writers feel the same way. I literally got off the phone. I don't know if you know a guy named Oz Noy. He's in New York.
I don't think so.
Oz is a pretty popular guy up in the Northeast, and he was saying the same thing, because I said, hey, what are your three favorite moments. And he said, honestly, I couldn't say I have three, but I just like, he goes, I love being a sideman, but when I'm playing music with really good musicians, when I'm playing my music, he goes, that's the exact same thing you said. And I think, and that was just today, but I've probably had 30 or 40 or 50 interviews with guys who said the same thing. So I think that creative expression is extremely powerful, and that's what keeps guys that do that going,
Totally.
The other question I want to ask you is, in your 335, the 59 reissue, what kind of pickups are in there?
Those pickups are made by a company called Bare Knuckle. They're from the UK.
Yeah, I know them.
And they're the model called the Mules. And my buddy Owen Barry turned me on to the pickups and said, dude, the Mules are where it's at. I mean, they're they're PAF
right
style replica pickups. They are unpotted, which I find really makes a big difference. If you're really going for an authentic PAF, get them unpotted, because that's the way they were made back then. And people can talk about squealing, and I mean, it depends on the gain that you use. I don't play with a lot of gain. I ust a lot of power tube overdrive, like from the amp. Like when an amp is turned up loud, it's a totally different thing than running tons of preamp gain and gain from pedals and stuff like that. So I've never had a problem. I've never had a problem with them being microphonic or feeding back. I think it depends on the player and what you're using the guitars for. But if you don't play with a ton of gain and you really want that authentic kind of thing, I mean, dude, I've been lucky enough to play real bursts in my life. I've played a few of them, and I have friends who own them. And those pickups, number one, they're not hot. People would be blown away, I think, to play one and discover that they're not. Number one, they're not hot. Number two, they almost have a transparent, almost single coil like presence to the humbucker. It's not that they're thin, but they have a certain character that is, how would I describe it? It's got a really warm but very clear and defined high end that, again, I don't want to say chimey, but it has properties of a single coil pickup. It's very clear and very dynamic. It doesn't sound, super ballsy and huge and fat like we come to expect from humbuckers.
Yeah.
That being said, it is, of course, more ballsy and fatter than a single coil, but there's a certain property, a clarity and a transparency that old PAFs have. And so I think Seymour Duncan makes a great one, the Antiquities. A lot of companies make great ones. I prefer the Bare Knuckle for humbuckers, and I prefer them unpotted because I think you get a lot of those qualities,
There's another company out of the UK called OX4, I think, and they make those too, and they're known for having really clean PAFs. And they make like a couple of styles. They make them like in like a Dickie, like a Dwayne Allman style, then like a Freddie King style, then just a regular Les Paul, PAF style. I guess, I don't know. There's a bunch of companies in the UK doing that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, we're in an age. It's super cool because there's never been more options, for gear, and if you are willing to take the ride, and the rabbit hole is deep, my friend, as you know, and it's like, you could spend years and years and years just in any one direction, kind of seeking out certain things. Eventually, for me, it's like, yeah, I'll take the ride. I'll spend 3 months playing nothing but analog delay pedals, and I'll get every single one I can find, and I'll shoot them out, but eventually I have to go, all right, this is my favorite. Let's move on and get back to songs,
Yeah.
Because it is never ending. So I look at all this stuff as tools of inspiration. If you pick up a guitar and you hear an inspiring sound, I think it's going to inspire a song or a song idea or whatever it is, that you're trying to do. I feel like it's going to help lead you there in a more fulfilling way. That's why I spend time, and why dissect, capacitors and pots and am I going to use braided wire or, cloth pullback wire? There's all these little minute details, and maybe none of it matters. But one of my favorite sayings ever, and I don't know who first said this, and you can use it for anything, whether it's a pedal or a pickup or a pot in your guitar or whatever it is. If you're standing on stage in an arena, okay, and your guitar is being mic'd up and it's going through this ginormous PA, okay, and the sound is bouncing everywhere in this huge arena, is somebody sitting out in the nosebleeds, right? Are they going to hear the difference between a real clon and a clone or a PAF that's potted versus unpotted? The answer, truthfully, absolutely not. They will never, ever, ever hear the difference. However, if the person playing guitar,
it's about that,
can hear the difference, and they perform or play better because of an inspired sound, the person in the nosebleeds absolutely will hear that.
Yeah, everybody will.
That's the thing for me. That's like when I get sort of lost in the rabbit hole, I remind myself of that, and I just have to default to just doing what inspires me and chasing what inspires me and moving on from there. Because if I'm inspired, I might write a better song or write a better guitar solo or play better on stage or whatever.
Absolutely, man. Hey, just in case, where would people go to look at your guitars in case someone wants to order one?
PerriInc.com.
PerriInk.com. Go to PerriInk.com. So Nick's last name is Perri, but with an I, Perri. So check out Nick's guitars there and check out his videos where you see you playing that Strat in a couple of videos. In fact, there was one recently I think you did on or maybe like the other day after you turned me onto your channel. I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's unusual to see him playing a Strat. And then I realized it wasn't a Strat, it was your Strat, So, but it was, you played it the other day. So this question, I have two questions for you here about Desert Island discs. What are your Desert Island discs in no particular order, knowing that this can change tomorrow? So just like a knee-jerk reaction for today. So overall, and then I want to know, just out of curiosity, your Pink Floyd order of just the top three. And you may have some overlap, but that's your call one way or another.
This is actually not a hard question because I'm so passionate about my top 10.
Okay.
I don't know that I'll give you 10, but I'll try. So
no, you just got to give me three. You just got to give me three if you want.
Okay.
If you want to give me 10, that's up to you.
Number one, for sure, hands down, no questions asked, Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Okay.
It's my favorite album of all time. Number one. Number two, Dark Side of the Moon. Mm-hmm. This is if we're talking about Pink Floyd or not, or just anybody in the world.
Correct.
It's still Pink Floyd, The Wall,
Pink Floyd,
Dark Side of the Moon. Number three would be Hendrix' Band of Gypsies, which is the live album he did shortly before he passed when he was with Billy Cox on bass and Buddy Miles on drums. That record changed my life. 1, 2, 3... I would say Zeppelin, probably Led Zeppelin 1 or 2 would be in there. Jimmy Page is a big one for me as well. Johnny Winter.
Yeah.
I would say Captured Live.
Oh man, the 3-sided LP. And you know what? I interviewed Johnny's manager and producer, Paul. Yeah, you know Paul?
I don't know him personally, but I know of him.
And Johnny hated that record. Isn't that weird?
I can't comprehend that.
I know. I guess that's my favorite Johnny Winter album. It's like, wow. Yeah.
It's blistering.
Yeah.
At the height of his powers, man, he was the absolute fastest, cleanest blues player in the world. And the playing on that record is devastating. The next one would be another Johnny Winter record called Nothing But the Blues. And that one, here's a little trivia for the listeners. That record is special to me for a number of reasons. It's not his fastest or flashiest playing by any means, but that record has the most, I think all songs but one, are original Johnny Winter songs. So a lot of his records, he did a lot of covers. This record has the most Johnny Winter original songs on it of any of his records. And number two, and this is to the best of my knowledge, a true story. In the late 70s, he produced 3 Grammy-winning albums for Muddy Waters. They were Muddy Waters comeback records.
Correct.
I'm Ready, Hard Again, and King Bee, right? 3 records. If anyone listening out there doesn't have these 3 records, they're the Bible for Muddy Waters stuff and the blues. So go get them. Johnny Winter produced all 3, played guitar on all 3, and the legend goes something like this, that instead of, or maybe in addition to, whatever deal that they worked out for compensation for Johnny, what was less important to him than the money, he said, you know, for doing these albums, what he really wanted in return was to let Johnny use his band to make a Johnny Winter record. And that is Nothing But the Blues. So it's Muddy Waters' band, James Cotton on harmonica. I think it's Pine Top Perkins on piano. But it's Muddy's band playing all these original Johnny Winter tunes. And it's just so dirty and sleazy and gut bucket and pocket. And it's, you know, they're all yelling in the background and it's live and it's just the coolest vibe.
I'm going to have to revisit that. I just wrote it down.
Nothing But the Blues. I think it came out in 77.
Was that an Alligator record? No, that was before Alligator, right?
You know your stuff. I actually do think it was an Alligator record.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
No. It's Blue Note.
Okay.
Blue Note.
Okay. I think that was Alligator's probably early to mid 80s actually it came out, I think.
Yeah. It's Blue Note, I believe. I have it on vinyl. I actually have a promotional copy. I don't know how I got it, but it's very special to me.
So that was number 6.
That was 6. I would say the Beatles, Rubber Soul is probably my favorite Beatles record. I mean, all Beatles records are my favorite Beatles records, so it's hard.
Yeah.
But Rubber Soul really hit me at the right age, at the right time. I mean, isn't it kind of always that way? When we list favorite albums, and I was thinking about this too, because someone asked me on Facebook recently, we have an attachment not only to the music, but despite record to record, if technically one record is better than another record or whatever, you know, sometimes that's less important to us if we have emotional attachments to where we were and who we were with. And that sometimes supersedes, like, you know, how great a record may be from a technical standpoint, you know?
The nostalgia around the record. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, the White Album is absolutely incredible. Abbey Road is incredible. Technically speaking, maybe their best album, but for whatever reason, what makes me happiest is Rubber Soul. And I think a lot has to do, not because it's not great, it is great, but I have incredible memories of where I was and who I was with when I heard it and what we were doing. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd is another one. The first time I ever heard that record, I was driving in my car. Brian Weaver was with me and a mutual friend named Pat. I don't remember his last name. This was years and years ago. I was a kid. I must have been 16, 16 or 17, probably 16. And I'd already been turned on to Dark Side of the Moon. It already blown my mind. But I was still in that discovery phase of like learning the catalog. And we got in my car after a gig, and it was either Brian or Pat said, let's put on Wish You Were Here. I never heard it. Keep in mind, not even one note, right? So we get in the car, we start driving, and we're in Philly. So the gig was in Philly, and the objective was to drive back home to like Northeast Philly.
Okay.
And somehow marijuana may have been involved in this story. I can't recall.
That'd be so weird to be 16 and listen to Pink Floyd and stoned.
Yeah, very uncommon. So next thing I know, though, right, we're driving, and I realize we're on the New Jersey Turnpike. And wait.
Wait, there's more.
There's more. So I'm just thinking to myself, Welcome to the Machine comes on, right?
So let me just tell people that that's totally the opposite direction if you haven't gathered from my laughter.
Totally the opposite direction. So we're headed all of a sudden, east, toward the coast. And Welcome to the Machine comes on. Now, I had never really been exposed to synthesizers. And I didn't know the power of what they could do or what their place in rock was at this point. And when Welcome to the Machine comes on, and it's that huge synth thing. Okay, when I tell you that it like unlocked a part of my brain I didn't know was there, right? So next thing I know, I swear to God, can't make this up. Next thing I know, we arrive at Newark International Airport, which is, approaching North Jersey.
Yeah, you're just outside of New York.
So I'm 2 hours past wherever. I mean, we had the album on repeat.
Yeah.
And we all get out at Newark and go get food. We weren't flying anywhere.
Yeah.
We just got out at the airport, used the restroom, got some food. We're like, how the hell did we get here? But it was the best car ride I've ever had in my life. I'm still talking about it, 16 years later.
That's awesome. Very cool.
That's the thing is like every time I put on that record and I hear the song, I can't not think about that.
Takes you to that ride over to Newark Airport. You know what though? That's almost an unfair exposure to synthesizer as your first one. That's like saying, yeah, the first time I had sex was with Playboy Bunny Miss July. Because it's like, that's an unfair, because what I think, in my opinion, what they did with pretty much everything they touched was so amazing and unlike anything else. And that it blew my mind. I know exactly. I feel the same way. So what would be your top 3 Pink Floyd albums would therefore then be The Wall, Dark Side of the Moon, and Wish You Were Here?
Yeah, Animals. If we could throw Animals into the mix, that would be the quartet of doom for me.
Yeah, for me it would be Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, and Animals. Because The Wall was later for me, and I was talk about the time frame period. When I got turned on to Animals, I was the right thing for me to hear at that time. And it was funny, I was just listening to it in the car the other day, and my wife goes, "What's that sheep noise?"
Yeah.
And well, cool, man. Well, thank you for this list.
Of course.
So hey, let's get under the hood a little bit here. Nick, what do you like most about you? Tough question.
Yikes.
And don't worry, you're not going to sound bragging. It's just like, what do you like most about you? It is a tough question.
I guess I like the fact that somehow I've turned out incredibly loyal. I think it's one of my strongest personal assets. I don't know where it came from, but I'm fiercely loyal, and I feel like that gains trust amongst those around me. And it's not misplaced trust. I'm incredibly loyal. And I don't know. I think that makes me feel good when I go to bed at night.
This is off the top. Are you Scorpio by any chance?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a Taurus.
Okay. People always say Scorpios are loyal. I'm not that I know much about, astrology, but I just know that people have said that. How about the flip side? If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? I'm extremely loyal.
That's easy. I'm wound up. I'm a wound up human being. And so I get it from my mom. There's no doubts. She's very wound up as well. She's lovely. She's one of the best human beings I've ever met, but she's very wound up. My dad, who we talked about a little bit, straight off the boat from Italy, is the polar opposite. He is so mellow and so chill, and nothing bothers him. There's no stress in his world. My mom, there's this. And that's how I turned out. my objective as I get older and go through my life is to not be less like my mom as a person or as some, I respect and love my mom and everything about her, but my general day-to-day behavior, I would love to see it as I get older, and I try to always skew it this way, is to just be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more chill, a little bit more zen. I mean, I do work on myself. I do meditate, and I read, and I try to skew my thinking and my behavior to be as chill as possible. But as we've discussed, I wake up and it's like, whoa, baby, let's go.
Yeah. The motor goes from 0 to 100. I feel you.
Yeah. So I would say finding a balance between those two polar opposites would be an objective of mine. And if I could tomorrow change one thing, it would be, I would just like to be a little bit more zen.
You know what, man? This is weird. Number one, it's going to happen because, and it's going to you're just going to wake up one day and say, like, wow, why did I, at least this is what happened with me. It's like, why am I spending all this time like on stuff that I don't need to? That's what, and it's going to, especially your awareness is so high right now. Like you're much more self-aware than certainly I was at your age. And, God, I sound like fucking ancient saying this, but it's true, so I'm going to say it anyway. But you don't
look or sound ancient. I promise you.
I don't feel it either, but when I look in the mirror, sometimes I'm like, fuck, those wrinkles, like even 5 years ago, weren't there. It's funny, sometimes my wife and I will look at each other, and we've been together 25 years, right? And I'm very lucky. I feel like I'm married up. I got a very pretty wife, but I will look at her sometime and I'll say, man, you look, because to me, she's just as beautiful, prettier, I think, as she's gotten older than she was when we met. But I'll say to her, I said, that look, you just reminded me of like when you were, I say little, but because we weren't little, but younger. And she'll say the same thing to me because sometimes I see the same thing, like when you're sleeping, you look like a little boy. And then she'll say, hey, man, you're looking old. So I know I'm getting old, but I appreciate the comment. Thank you. I think I have a high energy level, so that's kind of deceptive. But it's going to happen is the bottom line, because you're going to just wake up one day and realize, like, fuck, I'm really responsible for a lot of unnecessary stress that I'm dealing with. And I've decided right now, well, we're done with that. It's going to be just like, it'll be like matter of fact, like, I need to like lose 5 pounds and I'll do it. So it's going to be that same matter of fact decision. And it'll probably happen for you much younger than me, because like I said, I think your awareness is really much higher than mine was at that age. So it'll happen naturally.
I look forward to that day, dude.
It will. It will. It definitely will. It first happened with me because I had a buddy who was a doctor, a cardiologist one time, and he said, Craig, you just seem really wound up. I'm like, no, I'm not. He goes, look, man, I've treated thousands of patients, and I just like see this look in you, and I really want you to like chill out a bit. And I said, this is like a really nice gift this guy is giving me, and so I need to honor that, because I don't know, he maybe saved my life. So I started with little things, like when I'm making a left to cross over into a parking lot of a mall or something, I started waiting for the cars to come. I didn't just like get in there before the guy passed me. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. This is going to be 7 seconds of my life, and it'll be so much less stressful. And I tried it, and it was like, great. And so then I expanded on more things. So I think that guy kind of gave me a gift. Not that, I'm sick or anything, but who the hell knows, And so it started little like that. And now it's like, now in business, the first thing I do, and this is really weird, but the first thing I do is, which of these 5 decisions is the least stressful? And almost 100% of the time, that's the one I pick. It's
awesome.
Really,
good for you.
And in the past, I'd be like, man, I'm Craig Garber. I could fucking do anything. And I'd pick like the hardest one because I thought I had something to prove. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I being so stupid? Where's the, do I get an award for this? Like, why am I doing this? And then I realized, nope, that's not necessary.
Well, for me, what's interesting, I'm just thinking about this as you're saying it. I don't think about decisions as being easy or hard. I just go like, this is what I want to do. But they usually end up always being hard.
Well, let me tell you what, this is really interesting.
It's just the way it is.
Okay, so this is kind of deep, but for me, I had a very difficult youth, extremely difficult. So my programming was difficult shit is normal. So I always, and I didn't realize all this till later. Then I realized I'm making decisions to accommodate what my experience has shown me to be normal. But that just means I'm stupid in repeating the same bad decision making. And then when I realized, like, you know what? I don't have to make a stressful decision. I don't have to prove to anybody. Like when I was younger, I was in a tough situation, but because I was put there, it wasn't like I opted to be in there. But now I have the choice. And it was suddenly like I realized these things like, wow, I've got some discretion here in this, and I'm going to make better decisions for me. I just started taking better. Well,
that's wisdom, dude. That comes with,
It comes with a lot of bad decision making behind it. Is what it comes with. It's just like, I need to make think beyond the norm here. And once I started doing everything, and then shortly, and this is not even like real long ago, and then playing guitar has helped me tremendously because it as you can't play guitar unless you're in the present. You can't be thinking about I got this meeting tomorrow, or I had an argument with someone last week. Doesn't exist. It's right there. And that has been so therapeutic for me. And it's allowed me to now expand that to other areas of my life. Much easier, I think, than I would have without that experience under my belt. So
good for you.
Which you already know already.
Being in the present is the key to all of it.
Yeah.
Being present.
Yeah. It's been really very, so all that for me, anyway, that was sort of like my journey in chilling out. So you're going to have a much easier one because you're a lot smarter than I am. You are, trust me. Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
A little odd. I don't know. I'm a pretty open book. I'm a huge movie, I think we've talked about it, movie cinema guy. I draw a lot of inspiration from cinema.
Mm-hmm. You told me Pulp Fiction, not Kill Bill was your favorite movie?
Kill Bill was favorite of all time.
Yeah.
1 and 2 kind of homogenized into one choice. Big Lebowski, that's my all-time, well, I guess it would be my second all-time favorite movie. And talking about the dude, man, the dude is Zen. The dude for me is more than just a character in a movie. The dude is hip to some spiritual shit. And so I try to be more like the dude. The dude is like an American version of my dad.
Your dad's got the perfect gig, though, being chilled out like that as a barber, right? And that's like...
Dude, and he smokes cigars, and he's like, growing up, everyone called him the Godfather because he has a thick Italian accent.
That's so cool, man.
He's a barber, smokes cigars. It's just like a man of very few words. But when he speaks, you pay attention.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Best thing that's ever happened to you?
Having a daughter named Tesla. She's my angel.
I love that name.
She's the best. Every day is better with her.
That's really sweet, man. Any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I love fishing. If I could, and I lived in an area that was more conducive, I would be bass fishing every day.
Dude, seriously?
Bass fishing
That's
is
awesome. Yeah, it's really relaxing.
One of my favorite pastimes. And it is a life goal of mine, to buy a house, a cabin of sorts on a lake, and be able to wake up every day and go fishing with my daughter and, start the day in a very in touch with nature way. I can't do it today, but it's a goal of mine, for tomorrow.
Dude, if you ever come to Florida and you give me advance notice and you have the time, I can book us go out and do some fishing with some of these guides on the lakes in Central Florida. It's great fishing here.
I'm in.
It's great fishing. I love bass fishing. It's very relaxing.
Yeah, I dig it.
Have you ever had a specific experience that changed your life or altered the way you think about things?
Well, if we're talking about Zen and all this stuff, what started me on the path is I read a book. I'm not unique in having read this book. I think it's one of the best sellers probably around in the subject. It's called The Power of Now.
Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah. It really, really opened my eyes and really genuinely helped me. And I carry a copy of it with me wherever I go. I've read it probably 4 or 5 times and all the way through, but I've been in a constant state of reading it ever since the day I first read it. And I carry it with me on airplanes. And if I'm feeling stressed out, and he even says in the book, you know, it's written in a way to put you in almost a meditative state as you read it, the way that he wrote it. And it really, for me, it really does work. So if I'm feeling stress, all I have to do is open it and read a couple pages, and it's like my heart rate will drop, everything will chill out just from reading a couple pages.
That's great.
I would encourage anybody who's dealing with any kind of anxiety issues, you know, to take a step towards making it better, because it can and does get better. And for me, that was a really big life-changing moment. And I guess not every day is perfect, and not every day I meet the goals I have for being a mindful person practicing, you know, the right amount of Zen in my life that I want. Not every day I meet it, but a day that I come close, or even a day that I'm not very close, is much better than a day before I knew it existed and before I had the mindfulness and presence. That's the thing, is, you know, like you mentioned, the problems of today or the problems of tomorrow and the problems of yesterday go away if we become present.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's not easy because our society and our lifestyle is always set up for looking back and beating ourselves up about what happened in the past or projecting into tomorrow, into the future. But if we can take a moment and become present, you know, I found it's one of the most beautiful things and a real honest way to enjoy the moment that you're in and those who are around you. Because there's nothing worse than having a conversation with somebody and your head is off somewhere else. So it's not just work you do on you, but you can become a better friend, a better father, a better husband, a better wife, a better person for those that are around you by becoming more present. And it also helps you. You know, it's really great. And that book isn't the only one that can take you there. Even to just start thinking about it and becoming aware of it is a huge first step. But for me, that book was the entry point for me.
Very cool. Hey, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions because I really appreciate your time. I'm really glad I got to connect with you, Nick. Toughest decision you ever had to make, or hardest thing you ever had to do?
Man, you're good.
No, you're good. I'm the same dude every time. It's only good when I got a good person on the other end, man. Believe me.
Toughest decision. What was the question? The toughest decision, or
toughest decision you ever had to make, or the hardest thing you ever had to do?
It may have been leaving great gigs, like when I was with Perri or I was with Shinedown. There were people around me who thought I was absolutely out of my mind. I mean, just for example, I left Shinedown 1 month into the recession that hit in 2008.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people, even my parents, who thought that I was crazy. And the only thing I have to say is that sometimes, and each individual knows this, or has to make the call themselves in real time, or what I call the game time decision. But what equals, what looks good on paper, or what makes sense, on the left side of the brain, doesn't always equal, and in my experience, seldom equals happiness, and fulfillment. And I think that we all need to get in touch with the right side of our brain a little bit more. And for me, a perfect example is just that, money and making money, and that in no way, shape, or form correlated with my happiness level at any time in my life. Not saying that you can't make money and be happy. You can. But I think to be motivated, let me put it this way. At this point in my life, and really for the last 10 years, my first motivation is to do what I think is going to make me a happy person and bring happiness and love and joy into my life and the lives of those around me, period. Everything else is a secondary concern, period. And I'm motivated by listening to my heart, my gut, what feels right. Yes, I've made hard decisions. I've had to live with some hard decisions. I don't have any regrets because they've all led me to here. Yeah. And I've gone through hard times. Everybody has. But I've always tried to lead with just what feels right in my gut. And it hasn't always taken me down the easy road, but I believe it's taken me down the road I'm supposed to be on.
Man, I very much admire your drive to be authentic with yourself. That's a difficult thing for most people. Most people have a hard time being authentic with other people, but being authentic with yourself, I think, is even more difficult. And I very much admire that about you, because you're very passionate about that. Like, you want to do the right thing for you, and that's a really important thing to you. And it's an admirable quality. So I hope you never lose that. I'm sure you won't. That's who you are. Man. That's who you are. Last question, man. And every time I talk to you, I can't believe it's been like an hour now. It feels like 10 minutes. Biggest change in your personality over the last, 5 to 10 years, and how much of this has been deliberate and how much is just a part of aging?
Change in my personality. Well, I mean, it would probably harken back to some of the stuff we were just talking about with mindfulness and presence but I think the big one, if I could put it into one word, is acceptance. And I think that, yes, it's a part of aging. It's a part of having gone through stuff and figuring out like what works and what doesn't work for you as a human being, on planet Earth. But I think that acceptance is key for so many reasons, and I'm not saying that we have to accept bad things, but and not make changes. That's not what acceptance is. Acceptance is, okay, this happened. I have to accept it, and now I can move on from it. Learning what we can and can't control. Yeah,
that's a big one.
And how to keep moving, because when something happens, right? And this could be in music, in the music business, in life, in any job, in a relationship, if something happens, doesn't matter really if it's good or bad, but when something happens and we don't accept that it's happened, we fight against it, we push back, that creates pain and drama and stress in our lives and the lives of those around us, right? Because we're pushing back against it. No, we don't want to accept that just happened, right? Instead, you accept that it happened, and then you decide, how do I move on from this? And it's, in the long run, it saves endless hours, days of BS, of pain, of drama, of bullshit. For me, that's been the biggest thing. And I'm still working at it. And again, I'm not perfect. I'll never be, and none of us will. It takes work, but I try to okay, this didn't go the way I wanted. Shit. you know? Okay, accept that.
Yeah.
And then in the next breath, let's move on from that. It's really hard for me to like keep going back and dwelling in stuff. And every once in a while, someone will call me and want to talk about something that happened and talk about it again and again. And I'm just like, you know, let's move on. Let's move on from that, because it's a waste of time, you know, and time, you know, it's fleeting. You know, I want to make the most of my time here. I want to make the most of my time as a musician, as a songwriter, as an artist, as a dad, as a husband, as a brother and a son. I want to make the most of the time that I have here. So anyway.
Well, thanks, man. Oh, that was all good, man. Hey, I want to first of all, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're awesome, and I'm real excited to see where Underground Thieves goes. But I want to tell people where they could connect with you. First of all, it's Nick Perri, P-E-R-I, and it's nickperrimusic.com. He's got some, if you're a guitar player, go sign up on Nick's channel on YouTube. He's got some great stuff. Check out his newest project. It's called Underground Thieves, and you can find him at undergroundthieves.com. Great band. It combines the best of, you know, 60s and 70s rock with 70s era funk and, you know, great songwriting. I don't want to say pop sensibility, but pop sensibility from the 60s and 70s songwriting era is what I will say. Is that fair?
I love it. Thank you. It's a big compliment.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Dude, Fleetwood Mac, you know, Fleetwood Mac to me is pop music, but it's pop music through the lens of like epic 70s rock and roll, you know?
Yeah. And Nick just announced a tour or a couple of shows that Underground Thieves will be doing so in May. So if you're in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York area, they'll be playing there, and they can find that on undergroundthieves.com.
Yep. Undergroundthieves.com.
That's his first step towards playing at the Garden. He's at the Cutting Room.
That's right. That's right.
The thing is, man, when you do that, you're going to have to hook me up with tickets, but I will come up and check you out.
I absolutely will.
What else? Social media, Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, so I'm on social media pretty regularly, and by pretty regularly, I mean just about every day. It's all either / Nick Perri or Nick Perri Music. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. But, you know, as we've talked about, most of my efforts right now are being directed towards the Underground Thieves, which are on, you know, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as well, undergroundthieves.com. I would say just keep an eye out because stuff is happening pretty quick. Chapter 3 is going to be released in March and Chapter 4 in April, and 5 through 12 every month of, you know, the remainder of the year. And we've got a lot of cool stuff in the works and a lot of surprises. There's, you know, for me, the Underground Thieves is an umbrella that I'm going to use to create and collaborate with people I've always loved, and some people that you may love too, may be joining my forces very soon.
Awesome. Which
is exciting. It's exciting. Some friends and some heroes of mine. So
Mick Taylor, Michael Schenker, and
you never know.
You never know. Hey, please check out Nick Perri. Check out Underground Thieves, from the video Capistrano to everything else they're doing today. It's some great video production, great music. Man, I can't thank you enough for your time. Any final words of wisdom or anything else that you'd like to let people know about that where you're at?
Well, I think they've heard enough of my rambling wisdom. I would just say it's an honor. Thank you for having me. And if you're a guitar player, a musician, a songwriter out there, if you have that voice in your heart that's telling you to pursue and to take the leap and be an artist, and then I would say go for it and stop at nothing. And anything that you want can be yours if you believe, and be authentic to yourself.
There you go. I think plan B for you is televangelism. Amen.
Amen.
Right, hey, thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Many special thanks to Nick Perri for being so generous with his time. I mean, he's got like none of it, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get notified about future episodes along with early product announcements and discounts. And at this point, my cats are taking over my desk, or just at the right time. Remember, most important, happiness is a choice. So be nice. Choose wisely here, man. Be nice. Go play a guitar and have some fun. Till next time, peace and love. Everybody, I am out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.